Well, hello there. I am Crystal Craven, and I am a singer, a songwriter, and a worship leader, and I am passionate about sharing what God inspires. And this is your weekly devotional. Alrighty, we are in Luke 17, and we are covering verses 5 through 6 today. And it says, "The apostles said to the Lord, 'Increase our faith.' And the Lord said, 'If you had faith like a grain of mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it would obey you.'" Have you ever heard someone say something like, "All it takes is a mustard seed of faith"? I have. Now, this is where that is coming from, but the meaning tends to get lost in really well-meaning statements like that. So when we think of a mustard seed, it's really, really tiny, right? I looked it up and it is approximately 1 millimeter in length. That's tiny. And Jesus said that if we had faith like a grain of mustard seed, we could uproot trees with our words and plant it in the sea, and it would obey us. Now, most people take the view that all it takes is a small amount of faith, even as small as a mustard seed. But here's where the issue comes in. We don't even have that tiny amount of faith. Now, Jesus often said, "Oh, you of little faith," because it's true of us as mankind. Jesus wasn't trying to give us a pep talk that we just need to muster up a small seed size of faith. Yes, that pun was intended. But he's explaining here that we don't have as much faith as we might think we do. It can be really easy to get kind of sucked into thinking that we're just more than we are. Right? I'm sure when the disciples said, "Increase our faith," they didn't even realize just how much of an increase they would really need. But by Jesus mentioning that amount of faith being likened to a mustard seed and the impact of that faith, it helps to visually put it in perspective that we have even less faith than that. But it also simultaneously encourages us to have more faith. Now, none of us have had that amount of faith, right, to fill the grain of a mustard seed. But fortunately, we have a great example of someone who did. So we're going to take a look here. We're kind of looking back at Luke 8 because we've gone through this section before in our study through Luke. But this is where Jesus calmed the storm. And this is from Luke 8, verses 22 through 25. And it says, "One day he got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, 'Let us go across to the other side of the lake.' So they set out, and as they sailed, he fell asleep. And a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in danger. And they went and woke him, saying, 'Master, Master, we are perishing.' And he awoke and rebuked the wind and the raging waves, and they ceased, and there was a calm. And he said to them, 'Where is your faith?' And they were afraid, and they marveled, saying to one another, 'Who then is this, that he commands even the winds and water, and they obey him?'" Jesus had enough faith to command the storm to cease, and the winds and the waters obeyed. And the very next question Jesus asked his disciples was, "Where is your faith?" Now, let's be super clear here. Having faith isn't about being able to control nature. It's not about controlling winds and waters and trees and seas, right? But if we all had even that tiniest amount of faith, like a grain of mustard seed, oh, how different our lives would be. How free would we be to serve the Lord without hindrance of doubt and fear if we had faith like that? So why don't we? Our heart's desire should be like that of the apostles as they had said to the Lord, increase our faith. But before we get to a place of wanting our faith increased, we must come to the realization that we are lacking faith. That's a place that drives us to go to God with our lack and to ask for help and receive from His abundance. But that takes a humble heart, a heart that acknowledges that our faith is smaller than even a tiny little mustard seed. And it's a heart that's desperate to have faith that could move mountains and that would bring God glory through our obedience. So let's take a heart check moment here. Do you acknowledge your lack of faith? Take time to sit before the Lord with this, this acknowledgement, and to really wait on Him. Renew your strength in waiting on Him. And as He increases your faith, rise up with wings like eagles and soar in your walk with Him as He's guiding you through every step of your life. And may we never stop saying to our Lord, increase our faith. For blogs, written devotionals, and originally written songs, visit crystalcravenmusic.com, and that is Crystal with a K and Craven with a C.